in terms of spacing the floor, the Knicks are going to be a nightmare matchup for teams. It's so hard. What do you do? I mean, you have the pick and roll with Brunson and Cat. You can do the pick and pop with them. If teams blitz Brunson, you have Bridges who can shoot the three. He could drive. He can handle. You have OG who could finish at the rim, who could shoot elite from the corner. There's just so many ways the Knicks can beat a team. It's going to be really hard for teams to match up with them.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That's why I was just so mad when they made that trade. I think there's going to be guys open for three. There's going to be Brunson driving down the lane. He's going to be hitting floaters all day long.
Potential to be a top 2 or 3 offense in the NBA.
Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew, Sistad, Brad unite. Philly and Y in the spotlight.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 11, NBA season preview. A lot of sports are happening in New York and Philly this week, but we are going to focus this episode on previewing the New York Knicks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll spend about 5 seconds on the Brooklyn Nets as they go for a championship this year. So, where do we begin? You want to begin with your Sixers? Do we begin with your Knicks? What do you think?
I guess let's begin with the Sixers.
Let's begin with the Sixers. These Sixers. Never heard this song until about 5 minutes before the episode. You told me about the song.
Oh, it's so good.
I never heard it. It's pretty good. I gotta give them credit. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I've always kind of loved the song. I mean, they play when they win, so everyone's in a good mood, and it's happy, it's jovial, and it's very catchy. So definitely my favorite Philadelphia anthem. I mean, there's really only that and the Eagles fight song, but yeah. So, obviously the season's over. We've got a couple.
For a second, you got me. I forgot about your the season's over when the Knicks made the trade for Cat. I forgot your whole shtick there.
The season ended at that point a couple weeks ago.
Real quickly, before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of let's just set like a outline for how we're going to do this. We're gonna preview the Sixers first. We're gonna preview the Knicks. I joked about previewing the Nets. There's really not much to say. We will get into it very briefly though, and we're gonna preview the league as a whole. Regarding the Knicks and the Sixers specifically though, we want to focus on the starting lineup, the projected closing lineup, if it's different, the rotation. So for the Sixers, I'm assuming it's a 10-man, maybe even 11-man rotation. For the Knicks, it's going to be a 9. Strengths of the teams, weaknesses of the teams, things that we're concerned about, things that I guess are overall concerns, and then where we think each team stacks in the Eastern Conference. And then we're going to go over each team's over-under. That's the FanDuel over-under that I looked up a couple of days ago. So if it changed by a half a game or a win, whatever, who cares? And then so we'll do that for each team, and then we'll give some of our end of the season finals matchups, conference finals matchups, MVPs, things like that, predictions. So sorry to interrupt you now. So let's start with the Sixers. Yeah, I know. So, okay. Continue what you're saying, how the season was over after the Knicks traded for Cat.
Season was over. The Knicks traded for Cat. No, in all seriousness, very, very good offseason for the 76ers. Definitely the most excited I've been probably in my entire life for a basketball season. There's so much reason for optimism. There's a lot of reason to be a little bit concerned. They, at the very least, did what I beg all the teams that I root for to do, and they pushed all their chips in. They're not going to have that much longer of Embiid's prime because he's gigantic. He's on the wrong end of 30, and obviously he's had his injury history that continues to pile up, unfortunately. He had a pretty good Olympic run. He hasn't really done much. He's not playing in the preseason. They're still up in the air whether or not he's going to play in the season opener, which I think he is. I always thought that they were just kind of not going to have him play the preseason regardless. He always has a slow start to every season, just kind of how it is. Usually comes in a little bit out of shape, although he's saying that he lost some weight this year, so we'll see where that ends up. Paul George and Tyrese Maxey both got injured in the preseason. Neither of them sound like they're too serious, but it doesn't look like it looks like there's a chance that all three of them are out of the lineup for the first game. So things are going great.
Yeah, that's not.
But yeah,
that's not
other
exciting.
than that, yeah, I mean, the goal for them is to get to April healthy. And they made a lot of really good moves this year.
They're going to be a playoffs team. They're going to be the playoffs. So yeah.
Yeah, of course they're going to be in the playoffs. I think that they have a chance to do some real damage, man. I mean, obviously they're big moves of the offseason. They bring in Paul George, they re-sign Tyrese Maxey, and they sign a lot of guys kind of on the margins that could really help impact this team moving forward. The problem with the Sixers is that they have not had in a world where long, athletic, two-way wings dominate. They have not had one of those since Jimmy Butler, really, for half a season. And that was the closest that they've gotten to really making a deep playoff run. Yeah, I mean, the roster is really good on paper. We know that these stars are going to miss some games. So, yeah, the goal for them is just going to be to tread water until April, get everybody healthy for a deep playoff run because they haven't had that. Now, they have actually added a couple of athletic wings, which is very exciting. They brought back Kelly Oubre, who had a very good year last year. They signed Caleb Barton off of the Miami Heat. They get Eric Gordon, who I know is not a wing, but fits, with pretty much any team. He's going to be a useful player on any team. Still a really good shooter, getting a little bit up there in age, but still shoots knockdown from anywhere on the court. He's really good. They bring back Kyle Lowry. Still looked pretty good in limited minutes last year. Really good in the playoffs. I mean, he looked like Kyle Lowry. He definitely slowed down a little bit towards the end, but they got a good roster. They got shooting, they got defense. I think that the two things that they are really going to lack are passing and rebounding, for sure. Now, they did sign Andre Drummond, who's going to help with rebounding when Embiid's on the bench, but yeah, it's
all right. So you're all over the place right now. You're all over the place right now.
I'm just riffing. Yeah.
All right. So the starting five went healthy: Maxey, Embiid, Paul George, Oubre, Caleb Martin. Is that correct?
That's correct on paper. I do think.
What do you think they're going to do?
See, I think so. Nick Nurse definitely tinkers with the starting lineup a lot. He did it last year. I think he's going to do it this year. I think you're going to see some combinations of Eric Gordon in there. So whether it's Oubre off the bench, you start Eric Gordon, see how that works out, or you bench Caleb Martin, and you bench Martin, bring him off the bench, and put Gordon in his place. So
essentially, Oubre and Martin, basically, obviously the big three are the starting, and they're in the closing lineup as well. So those other two slots are for the starting lineup and for the closing lineup. I'm assuming are going to be evolving throughout the season.
Yeah, I would imagine that the closing lineup probably doesn't have Eric Gordon in it.
Why not? Because of his defense?
Just because his defense, he doesn't really bring that much to the table anymore except for shooting. So defense, I don't think he's necessarily a very good ball handler. But you'll have Maxey, you'll have Paul George for that kind of thing. So I think that, barring foul trouble and health, I think that the best closing lineup for the game would definitely be, the three starters, the big three, and then Oubre and Martin for sure. And I'm sure you'll see Lowry in there at times as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think with Oubre, it's the kind of the situation where he's not the greatest shooter. So if he's having an off game, one of his off games shooting, it's harder to get him in the game down the stretch. Where if he's having one of his good games, he's obviously closing because he's probably their best perimeter defender, at least for like on ball guards. Right? Not probably, he is, right?
I think maybe Caleb Martin, but yeah, it's one of the two. But the thing about Oubre is that he's always kind of good for one stupid thing a game. Nurse might not trust him in the starting lineup. I mean, he had no choice but to do so last year. But now you have Lowry for a full season. You have Martin. So I think that there's a little bit better options. But I'm totally fine with Oubre.
Let's just say Oubre's on the court and you pick Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon. Doesn't matter for this conversation, I guess. What kind of offense are you expecting from the Sixers? A lot of the same pick and rolls with Maxey and Embiid. What are you expecting them, and how are you expecting Paul George to be utilized when all three of them are on the court together? Because obviously, the great thing about having a big three is you can have at least one of them on the court at all times when they're all three playing the game, of course. But when they're all on the court at the same time, how do you envision the offense flowing? Is it just going to be the Embiid stuff, the Embiid post up, the pick and roll, the pick and pop, or are they going to be doing different things than we've seen in the last couple seasons?
I think you're going to see a little bit of everything. Nick Nurse is very creative. He tries a lot of things. I think you certainly have your bread and butter, your go-to. When all else fails, you could always drop, you could always do Embiid pick and roll, pick and pop. You could space the floor, especially with, do some drive and kick with Maxey. You could set high screens from the wing and just have Maxey rise from there. You could put Paul George pretty much anywhere on the perimeter and kick to him. You could have Paul George ISO like that. That's the exciting thing is they haven't had somebody who can really ISO for them because at the end of games it's really hard. Especially Embiid gets double teamed in the post, and they basically have always had trouble having somebody step up in the last, in the closing minutes of the game. And now just having the threat of all three of those guys where, Maxey can drive past you, you have Embiid down low, you have Paul George either, on the wing, on the outside, shooting from three. Like there's a lot more ways that the team can beat you now.
Do you think they're going to do a lot of matchup hunting?
I think so. That's kind of what you see in today's NBA. And they certainly have the personnel to do it. They got size, length, speed, strength, all within that starting lineup. So it's whatever.
So if you think about the teams around the East, the player personnel, who has three players or a combination of players to somewhat defend Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George? Like, there's probably just the Celtics and the Knicks. That's probably it.
Yes.
If the Knicks, maybe not even the Knicks. We'll get to that later. But the Celtics do.
Celtics do for sure. Although they're saying, with the Porzingis injury, although that's actually, it's an interesting point. Embiid has throughout their careers very much dominated Cat throughout their matchups. Offensively, of course, because Cat is a bad matchup for him, for Embiid defensively too, because Cat's going to be out on the perimeter. Embiid doesn't want to have to chase guys out to the perimeter. So
yeah, and the Knicks won't have Cat on Embiid as just one-on-one.
Right.
So.
Boston, I would say, not really the Heat because they don't really have any like wing type defender or a guard defender. But Bam usually does a pretty decent job.
Like the Pacers. Who on the Pacers is going to guard Paul George and Maxey? Like they have Nemard who can guard Maxey maybe, but no one who's guarding Paul George. They don't really have it.
Yeah, they're going to try and put Siakam on him, I guess. And Turner's much too small for Embiid. So
Turner's also become his defense. Like a few years ago, he was like one of the best defensive centers in the league, and now that he's good at offense, he's like doesn't play defense anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but
yes, I think it's Boston and New York, but again with KP out for a while,
and the Knicks, like you were saying, the Knicks no longer until Mitch comes back, the Knicks no longer have someone to guard Embiid. Really, it'd be a OG and Cat combo, and you're taking two guys then, and then OG's one of the guys that's supposed to be guarding, Paul George in that matchup. So then what do they do? So
yeah, and you know who actually usually stood his ground pretty well against Embiid was Randall in their.
Really?
Yeah.
Randall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember Randall really guarding him at all.
Yeah, well, Randall's just very strong, so he wasn't. He's just not going to get pushed around by Embiid in the post.
Yeah, that's true. All right. How about the rest of the rotation? So we talked about, right? We got Maxey, Embiid, Paul George. Obviously, you got Oubre, you got Caleb Martin, you got Lowry, Eric Gordon. That's 7. Drummond is going to play a lot of minutes as the backup center, probably starting at 30, 40 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they have Reggie Jackson, who will probably play some backup point guard. I'm sure they're going to sit Lowry here and there just because he's so old. So they'll probably have Reggie Jackson come in and
McCain.
McCain. I'm sure he's not going to be running any point. He'll probably get some minutes because he's a very good shooter.
Does he have a concussion right now, by the way?
Yeah. It's another guy who got knocked out in the.
How did that happen? How did he get concussed in the preseason?
He just like jumped up for I don't know if it was like a rebound, I forget, but he just came down square on his back from like really high up, and I read that he like bruised his heart or something weird like that. So
Jesus.
It doesn't sound too serious, just a weird like freaky thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a very good shooter, and like I said, he's a pretty willing defender from what I've seen in the preseason.
He's 100% expected to be in the rotation, right?
I don't know that I would say that.
Oh, really? I thought he was.
They have a lot of guards, man. They've got again, I think Nurse will give him minutes as the year goes on. Yeah, but right away I think it'll be Maxey and Lowry and Reggie Jackson.
I see. Okay. I think Reggie Jackson's. Sure. I think he'll probably overtake Reggie Jackson. You're going to see Reggie Jackson's not good anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll have a game where he scores 29 and everybody's going to clamor for him more. But McKean's
on the offense through.
The other big off-season signing they had was Gershon Yabusele, the guy.
Yabusele, yep.
Yeah, the Olympic standout for the French team. They picked him up late in the offseason, and I'm excited to see him. Big, strong guy. He's improved his shooting over the past couple of years. He actually got drafted by the Boston Celtics in, I think, 2016. Didn't really get a lot of minutes. He was a little out of shape, so he went over to Europe, worked on his game a little bit. Obviously had a really good Olympic run, and he's back. He's back in the NBA with the 76ers. They signed him to like a $2 million deal 1 year. And he's just another athletic guy who's going to try really hard. He's got a high motor. He's going to grab some rebounds.
Is he the backup 4?
Yeah, I would pretty much call him that. That's another weakness. They really don't have like any like. I guess just they don't really have power forwards at all.
Well, that's today's NBA.
Yeah. Yabusele's one, and they're definitely going to trade KJ Martin at some point. They gave him a very big deal for him. I think they paid him $18 million, and he's like not worth that at all.
It's just to match salaries in a trade.
Just to match salaries in a trade, yeah. So they they left the roster spot open. So it's like all, and KJ Martin happens to be a power forward, so they're definitely going to use him as a trade chip for another power forward at some point in the year. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a pretty deep, fun squad. Again, they have just way more athleticism and shooting than they have had in a really long time.
Yep.
I think the weaknesses are going to be definitely just passing. I don't think that there's there's really not a lot of good passers on the team. I don't think the passing is abysmal, but I don't think you can point to one guy and say his best attribute is passing. Maybe Lowry at this point in his career, but he's just not going to be getting that much, a ton of minutes.
Yeah, I think what I would say to that though is why I don't like. I think that's a good point, and if you're trying to find a weakness, I think that is probably a weakness. But when you have someone like Embiid that naturally creates so many open guys, you don't really need to have someone that's great at passing or play someone has particularly great vision, because they're just going to play off Embiid, and guys are going to be wide open. Defenses are scrambling, and Paul George offers that, not to the extent of Embiid, but he offers it as well. And then even Maxey to an extent, and that pick and roll with Maxey and Embiid, defenses are just scrambling, so guys are open. You don't really need someone to be a great passer.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's still not ideal, But you can't have everything. You're gonna
you
not
can have
gonna
Ben
have
Simmons.
a perfect team, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the other thing I would just say is rebounding. A lot of these guys just they're not great rebounders, and that's pretty much what killed them in the Knicks series. I think that they were largely the better team. I mean, the Knicks just destroyed them on the glass, and when you have that many more opportunities for shots, you're bound to just score more points. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
I would have liked to see them. Yeah, I would have liked to see them address that a little bit more.
But the real number one concern, let's just like it's clearly the health, right? I mean, you have Embiid. Your three best players have been very injury prone in the last few seasons, and they're, I mean, Paul George specifically. How old is he now?
34. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and he has a knee injury right now. So that has to be the number one concern for the Sixers. I know the idea is, look, like you have 3 stars, you have someone at the level of Embiid, you're going to make the playoffs. So just be healthy for the playoffs. It's hard to control that, though, as we've seen. It's really hard to control that the whole season, even if Embiid's not playing, a third of the games. It's still hard to control the timing of his injuries.
Absolutely. Yeah, the one thing that I'll say is that they seem to have a plan in place this year. I don't know why they haven't had one the first 10 years of his career. But they announced that he's not playing in any back-to-backs. He said that will never play in a back-to-back for the rest of his career.
I mean, I get it. I understand it. It's a smart move. It just, as a fan, it kind of sucks, right? Like, you want to watch every game and knowing that you're getting excited to watch the team win every game. I know ultimately the championship's the goal, but you're watching 82 regular season games. You really want, to go into like 75 of them thinking that this is the best team.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a bummer, but the Sixers everybody is just waiting until April at this point. And it's been like that for a while because they've had all these second round exits.
But dude, don't you think that the regular season, I know we talked about this before, this regular season does matter first of all for seeding, but even like to figure out, especially when you have such a very revamped roster, to develop that chemistry, that play style, to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And you can't really figure that out without your best players on the court during the regular season, especially in games against the Celtics, against the Knicks, against the Pacers and Magic and Cavs and teams you're going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So hopefully they could find some sort of middle ground where they're still prioritizing health all the while developing that chemistry and, learning how to play with one another and so on and so forth.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you have to protect Embiid. You have to do everything you can to make sure he's healthy at the right time. So all the negatives that come with it, obviously the biggest negative is Embiid being hurt in the playoffs.
Right.
So that outweighs it all, of course. You're weighing decisions. You got to weigh what's the worst decision. What's the worst thing that could happen? Embiid being hurt in the playoffs. Okay, let's do everything we can to avoid that. Makes
one thing I'm curious to hear what your take on this. So this might just be, athlete speak. I know you kind of take it with a grain of salt, but I actually heard on Paul George's podcast over the summertime. He said something to the effect of one of the big reasons why people get hurt, obviously talking about himself and Joel, and we'll just say Joel specifically in this instance, but he really has had to do everything for his team his entire career. He really hasn't had a ton of help on both ends of the floor. So, the theory is
a lot of stress, physical stress.
Right. A lot more physical stress, just a lot more responsibility, a lot more energy. And when you're doing things like that, like the theory is you're going to get yourself hurt more. You're exerting yourself more. You're using more energy. So hopefully with these additions, he doesn't feel like he has to do as much. It's great watching him score 70 points in a game like he did last year, average 34 points and whatever else he was doing. But, if
it was incredible.
If this year he's going to average 24 points and he's going to be healthy and the team is flourishing, then that's more important. I think that's the goal. I think that they're all kind of on the same page with that. So hopefully the lesser of a load he has, the less he has on his plate, the healthier he can be. And the same is going to go for Paul George. I mean, Paul George had, Kawhi Leonard as his teammate for the past few years. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard misses more time than anybody. So a lot of responsibility fell on Paul George's shoulders. And
I think, I think that's
what do you think about that?
I think it's pretty logical, sound logic. I mean, it's hard. See, I think it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. And I think it's one of those things from a player's perspective, a current player, a current star player that's had his injuries. He shares that from his personal experience. It makes sense, but I think contrarians or people who look to point things out and just disagree will point to why when he played with Kawhi did he get more hurt than before he played with Kawhi. But again, there's a lot of reasons for it. It's not that simple. That I can look at around the league and look at players who, I don't know, Anthony Davis had his healthiest season last year with someone else taking a good of the workload. So I mean I think it's sound logic. I don't know if it's going to actually play out where he's going to be healthier, but it makes sense that if you're not putting as much physical stress constantly on your body, you're less likely to get injured. I think that makes sense. So I don't know if they're going to be asking him to do less on defense though. Like he's still going to be the roaming center. That's who he is, and if he's not doing that, he's not as valuable. Which, okay, it's fine. He's not as valuable, but I don't know. I guess the answer is as long as he's doing it in the playoffs, that's fine. But he wasn't able to do it in the playoffs last year. He was too hurt. So
right, yeah.
I think it makes sense though.
Okay, good.
It's a good point.
Well, optimism.
All right, so the Sixers last year, 47-35, 7th in the East. Embiid missed a lot of time. We don't really care about that win total that much. Their over-under this year is set at, I think it's 50.5. Let's see, 50.5. All right, make your prediction. Over or under 50.5?
Under.
I'm going.
Under
Me too.
because of this back-to-back stuff. I mean, that's 15 games that, I know they have a much better team this year, but they were just so awful without him last year. And I think the East is a lot better. So, I'm not saying they're going to win 44 games, but yeah, I think 49-50 games would be a pretty safe bet.
I'm with you on that.
I wonder if it's gone down at all since this injury.
I checked it. Oh man, maybe. I think I checked before the Paul George injury news. I don't know, but yeah, I think that between the injury stuff, the resting Embiid stuff, and just they're probably playing a 10 or 11 man rotation, right? How many guys are back from last year? 3? 4?
Yeah, it's not many.
I think just that there's just naturally going to take some time to play their best. Doesn't mean they can't win games early on in the season, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a development period. building that chemistry. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under, but yeah, they're obviously a playoff team. And when this is kind of what I said about the Rangers. Like when you have a team that's always in the playoffs, always towards the top of the East every year, it's like it gets to the point where it's like, all right, I'll watch the regular season. I'm gonna get excited, but everyone knows it's really about the playoffs. Yeah. All right. Ready for the Knicks?
I'm ready. NYK.
NYK.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York
I wanted
Knicks.
to play the NYK song, and it's not working.
We are the New York
go.
Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York, go New York, go.
Say it.
Go New
Say it.
York, go New York,
Say
go.
it. Come on.
Go
Say
New
it.
York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Well, just like that, look who's back in the mix. Straight out of New York City, it's the Red Hot Knicks, and nothing's gonna stop
All
us
right.
from hanging
So
the bat.
you didn't want to say
I
it.
like that song. It's good.
It's a good song.
I never heard like the actual version. I mean, I've heard people in the crowd singing it. That was cool. Some
You
hip
want to hear
hop.
some? You might find this funny. All right, so maybe not. So during the playoff run, I would walk into the house, say I was out with Ari or left for work, and I would just say, like, we are the New York Knicks. I would just walk in, and then Jess would start singing the song.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, anyway, interesting that you said you can't remember being this excited for a Sixers season because they've been good for a long time. This is probably the most anticipated New York Knicks season since I don't know, maybe one of the mellow years, maybe. But
I think there's way more excitement for this team than the mellow teams.
I think
Oh my God.
we're talking like 90s.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
So the Knicks made a lot of changes, though. They went 50-32 last year, second in the East, and about half the season without their second best player at the time, Julius Randle, playing a lot of the season without the third best player, OG Anunoby, and pretty much just riding Jalen Brunson's breakout season. I mean, is it a breakout season? 2 years ago was a breakout season. His first year with the Knicks. Last year, I guess, was another breakout season. Finished 6th in MVP voting. Second all-team NBA. So, run it back? No. So the Knicks, so many changes. It's kind of crazy though that this is the kind of thing as a fan. It's almost like, and a lot of fans felt this way. Like we really like this team. There's something about this team that's really, it's not so. It's very easy to define. There's a star player who was a second-round pick who people kept counting out. Even when the Knicks signed him as a free agent, most Knicks fans didn't. It was like, what are we doing here? And so that's part of it. Then you have like the Villanova guys, Devo and Brunson and Hart playing together, and there's something fun about watching that. It's just watching guys that love to play with each other and like really like one another, or really like groomsmen at each other's weddings, like that. There's something about that as a fan that you gravitate towards that. Then there's the hustle, the Tibbs style, where every regular season game we're playing like it's the playoffs. And then they trade for OG Anunoby, who's just this all-out defender. And it's just a really likable team. And then the idea was, let's get Randle healthy. Let's have OG for a full season. Let's see what this team can do. And I was pretty surprised by the Mikal Bridges trade. Made a lot of sense. The Knicks trade pretty much every draft pick they had for Mikal Bridges. And now it's like, okay, we're talking about the team. I'm thinking about the team throughout the offseason, getting close to training camp and thinking about the team as is. And then the Friday before training camp, so the training camp started that Monday, they traded for Cat. Really it's transforming the team. So now the Knicks are going away from the Tibbs style rim protecting center, roaming center, and going to Karl-Anthony Towns, spreading the floor on offense, completely turning this into a space space game for Jalen Brunson. As amazing as Jalen Brunson was the last 2 seasons, think about this. How many times, Knicks fans, you're watching the games and you see Brunson driving in and there's the opposing team center stepping up? Because why? Because iHeart and Mitch are right over there. Now, our 5 is going to be staying at the 3-point line. And if you leave him open, he's going to shoot over 40% open from 3. So Brunson's going to have a lot of space. It's a really good option, really good opportunity for the Knicks offense. It's going to be really hard to cover. They have 3-point shooters. Mikal Bridges shoots the 3 well. OG shoots the 3 well. Talent shoots the 3 well. Brunson shoots the 3 well. Hart doesn't. And if the game calls for it, and we're going to get into this when we talk about the closing lineup a little bit, Deuce McBride's an option. He can defend and he can shoot. He just can't rebound like Josh Hart. So, and he doesn't get to loose balls like Josh Hart because no one does. It's kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah.
You were annoyed during that series how like Hart would just get to loose balls, right? Like he would just somehow get to the ball.
I was annoyed with everything that he did, and you're sitting here saying that he's not a good shooter, but you wouldn't have known that from watching him play the 76ers in April or May.
Yeah, well, against the Sixers, he's a great shooter. Don't worry.
That's right. That's right. It's usually how it works.
Yeah, he's not a good shooter. He had a great shooting series.
Of course he did.
I mean, it's, Cameron Payne was drilling threes against the Knicks.
Yeah, I honestly didn't like the defensive philosophy for the Sixers to do that. In that series, I mean, they were just leaving him so wide open, and like understand
it was a little bit exaggerated. They exaggerated. Like he can't shoot. We need to make sure Brunson doesn't beat us. But like they exaggerated it. Like
I mean,
he's an NBA player.
Right. He's not Ben Simmons. Like he's going to hit shots when he's that wide open. Like so.
Yeah. The numbers don't say his whatever he was last season really bad. Like 29% from 3, whatever it was. 20. Like that's not with no one on his side of the court. That's not how that's not how the numbers work. So that's a good point. But anyway, so the starting 5, we're looking at Brunson, Hart, OG, Bridges, and Cat. I think the closing lineup is pretty much the same, except I think there's a good chance in games when Hart's not shooting well, depending on the matchups, we might see Deuce in there. Hart, see, it depends, because when you have a matchup where you need Hart's rebounding, you need Hart in there. Deuce is not going to rebound. He's a real guard who doesn't rebound. Hart's a 6'6" or 6'5" guard who rebounds like he's 6'11". So it depends on the matchup, but Deuce is a legitimate option to swap in for Hart for the closing minutes. Guarding, some injury news. So obviously we've known for a while Mitchell Robinson's going to be out till December, January. Who knows with him? Maybe he gets traded. Maybe he's not ready in time in December and January because it's Mitchell Robinson. Maybe he comes back and gets re-injured. Let's say probably. Precious Achiuwa, injured. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. He'll be reevaluated in 2 to 4 weeks, which is kind of a strange time frame to say he's going to be reevaluated. Like if they said he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, okay, that's fine. That's a normal timeline. But to say he's going to be reevaluated, why wouldn't you know when you're going to reevaluate him? I don't know. I think that's just Knicks. I think that's just them saying something to the media without just trying to be vague. Then Landry Shamet, who looked like he was going to be in a rotation piece, he got hurt.
Show. Yeah.
Knicks really could use his shooting off the bench after trading Devo, so that hurts a little bit. The Knicks lose a couple rotation pieces. I mean, that's right there between those 3 players. That's 3 of their 9 rotation guys. So, well, anyway, the rotation. So the starters plus Deuce. I already said. I think Deuce is going to get a ton of minutes as a 6-man. Your boy Campaign going to play some backup point.
Love me some Campaign. Yeah.
Jericho Sims will probably fill in for Precious Achiuwa now as the backup 5. Maybe they'll play some Jericho Sims at the 5, some Cat at the 4 minutes. I think that's possible.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
I think that's very possible. I think the one thing about Cat is now he's gotten used to having that like defensive rim protecting roaming center. So because he did that with Gobert, so if the Knicks wanted to do that for 5 to 10 minutes a game, they can. It's not ideal because Jericho Sims isn't a very good NBA player up to this point. Crazy athleticism, but hasn't proven to be a legitimate rotation player. And then the Knicks have their 2 rookies that will try to break into the rotation now, Dadier and Kolek. By the way, Tyler Kolek is the quintessential Sistad discount, disregard him without even watching a second or looking into any of his stats player. Do you know why?
He's white.
He's small and white.
Is he like Peyton Pritchard? Like the Knicks version of Peyton Pritchard?
Yeah, maybe. I think Knicks fans were hoping more like TJ McCollum.
McConnell.
Yeah, why did I say McCollum? I'm thinking CJ McCollum.
CJ, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have TJ McConnell than CJ McCollum.
Wow.
For this specific team, not in general. Yeah. But he's looked really good in the preseason and training camp. Tibbs is not the kind of coach that wants to hand the keys to a rookie and say, go play 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to earn it. He's probably not going to start. But with these 3 injuries, he might crack it. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play this rotation, but I would expect definitely Deuce, Payne, and Jericho Sims out there. And then, I don't know, maybe Dadier, maybe Kolek, maybe the Knicks make a trade or a signing. Maybe they bring in Marcus Morris. Again, they had him, then had to cut him to facilitate the cat trade. But they'll probably bring in a veteran and give some minutes to the veteran. But that leads me kind of to the weakness, the concern. I'm very concerned about this Knicks depth. Like they traded a lot of their depth. They traded Devo. They're without Mitch. They're without Achua. They're without Shamet. And they have 2 rookies. And they have a backup center in Jericho Sims who has not proven to be a legitimate NBA player up to this point. So I'm concerned about the depth. They, at some point, might trade Achua. Maybe they trade Mitch. But right now, I'm concerned about the depth. I'm concerned about the depth of bigs because they don't really have anyone behind. I mean, they have Cat, and then they have Sims.
And as we all know, Cat is soft. And he
yeah, he's soft.
Wait, hold on. Is he still soft even though they made the Western Conference Finals? Is that I think your soft label gets lifted if you make the conference finals. No.
Once you're soft, you're always soft.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of spacing the floor, the Knicks are going to be a nightmare matchup for teams. It's so hard. What do you do? I mean, you have the pick and roll with Brunson and Cat. You can do the pick and pop with them. If teams blitz Brunson, I mean, you have Bridges who can shoot the 3. He could drive. He can handle. You have OG who could finish at the rim, who could shoot elite from the corner. There's just so many ways the Knicks can beat a team. It's going to be really hard for teams to match up with them.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That's why I was just so mad when they made that trade. I think there's going to be guys open for 3. There's going to be Brunson driving down the lane. He's going to be hitting floaters all day long. He's going to be, guys are going to rotate into the dunker spot. I'm sure he's going to find them for an easy 2. Like it's going to be not fun to have to play against.
It has the potential to be a top 2 or 3 offense in the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the defense. And by the way, in preseason, teams aren't trying to show everything what they're going to do, but the Knicks were using Cat in drop coverage a lot. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about in drop coverage, I'm talking about the most prominent player in the NBA is the pick and roll. And the Tibbs has always liked to use his centers in the pick and roll to drop so they can roam and protect the rim. The idea, Cat has never been good at that. With Cat, teams usually switch. I mean, they switch, or he goes out to the big man at the 3-point line. He doesn't drop. And the reason why he hasn't dropped and he hasn't been good at it is because he hasn't had the best defensive acumen in terms of understanding what the offense is trying to do and reading it, and then adjusting and reacting. And when you have a defensive center that's playing in drop coverage, they need to read what's going on. They need to be able to adjust and react, and either come out to the 3-point line and contest, or contest at the rim. And it's interesting that the Knicks were doing this in preseason. I don't know if they're going to do it in the regular season. Tibbs, he might really try really hard to see if Cat can do it, because Tibbs doesn't want to not. Tibbs has his defensive philosophy. He doesn't want to abandon it. But we'll see. I thought that was interesting that they were playing a lot of drop coverage with Cat. But in general, I'm concerned about the defense. I'm concerned about the depth. I'm concerned about Cat being their 5. I don't know if Mitch comes back, he's not traded. I have no idea what they're going to do. I assume Mitch is going to come off the bench, but maybe they play both of them. We'll see. But anyway, really excited for the season. The offense is going to be outstanding. I think that I just can't see the Knicks defense being bad, because they have Bridges, they have OG, they have Deuce, they have Hart, and they have Tibbs. So the defense won't be bad. I'm just a little bit concerned about how Cat's going to fit in.
Yeah, and Robinson when he comes back. I wouldn't be too concerned about that if I were you. I think.
But if they play Mitch,
I think they have. I think they have 3, 4, 5. I'm saying in regard to the starting lineup. So let's just say, for argument's sake, Brunson's your 1, Cat's your 5. I'm sorry, I must have misspoke. Your 2, 3, 4 are all super long, super athletic wings who can defend. So, you know, you might not have the best anchor, playing down low, but I think that's just a really good place to start, and you can kind of fill out the rest.
Oh no, I do agree with you. The Knicks should be one of the best defensive teams in the league with those wings and with Tibbs as their coach. But I'm just saying it's a concern. I'm concerned to see how Cat fits into that role. And if Mitch ends up playing, and if he struggles and Mitch comes back and Mitch ends up playing a lot of the 5, well, then you lose your 5 out on offense. Mm-hmm. So that's not ideal. But they might end up doing that. So we'll see. Knicks over under 53.5 wins. What do you think?
I have the over easily.
You're such a pessimistic hater.
I am not. I think they are. I think they're right there with Boston. Maybe you give the edge to Boston a little bit, but this Porzingis thing is like a real big deal for them, I think. And he's going to be out till like December, January. And Boston won 66, 68 games last year. Are they 15 games better than this Knicks team? No way.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would look at it that way, because I agree that I do think the Knicks, I'm taking the over on that 53.5 as well, and I do think the Knicks are the second best team in the East. I agree with you, but I wouldn't look at it as say they're 15 games as they're not. The Celtics are 15 games better than them, so that means the Knicks are going to win within less than 50, whatever. Like, say this, you think the Celtics are 10 games better. Oh, so the Celtics won 65 games, so the Knicks are going to win 55. I don't know if that I would look at it that way. The Celtics will probably lose less games this year. We'll win less games this year, just because that regular season was crazy.
Sure.
But yeah, I do think I'll give the Celtics the edge, but I do think the Knicks are going into the season the second best team in the East. But I want to see it play out. All right. So Knicks Sixers, we'll do some maybe Knicks Sixer games reaction pods.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe Knicks Sixer games preview pods. All right. So Nets. Before we get to the NBA as a whole, let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are a championship contender this year.
That's right.
Right? What do you think?
The best team in New York.
I would say they probably have a 25% chance at winning it all. Right? Yeah.
By winning it all, you mean the number one pick?
The Cooper Flex sweepstakes, yeah.
Yeah.
The Nets are right there in the thick of the Cooper Flex sweepstakes this season. So good luck to the Nets. How bad will they be? I mean, I think they're going to be horrible. Like, they're trying to lose. They traded their only really good player for just draft capital. They're just a really bad team.
Yeah. I think that I also think they're going to be very bad. I mean, who is their best player right now? My God.
Who is the Nets' best player?
I don't know.
Well, they have
Dennis Schroeder, Ben Simmons. Wow.
Schroeder's probably their best player. He's actually not a bad player, but just not as good.
Schroeder's very, very. I mean, they have some guys like, dude. They got a couple guys that you could.
Cam Thomas. He could score. Cam Thomas is one of those guys that will score 24 a game this year on a really bad team, really inefficient, maybe even more like 25 a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at some potential trade targets here, man.
They have Bogey. They have Bogey. They got in the Bridges trade.
They have Nick Claxton.
Nick Claxton's actually pretty good.
Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, I'll take a couple of these guys.
They have a bunch of players that are useful as like your 8th best player.
Yeah.
How many games is Ben Simmons going to play? Let me give you an over and under of 20.
I think he's going to play over 20. Why not?
Okay, I don't.
Damn, worst contract in NBA history.
Ben Simmons.
That or the Tobias Harris one. Both given out by the 76ers.
Oh, yeah. So, over-under wins 18.5. It's hard to pick the under on 18.5.
Yeah, I'd probably take the over.
I'll probably take the over also. Like, I know the Nets would probably want to be under, but
yeah,
18.5 is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's really bad. I wonder if that's got to be the lowest in the NBA, right? The lowest over/under total. Yeah,
I haven't looked through them, but it has to be.
Or the Wizards, maybe.
Pistons.
No, I think the Wizards would probably be lower than that now.
All of them are in the Cooper Flex sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Let's hear it. What do you have?
Eastern Conference Finals? Boston and New York, for sure.
Okay, that was locked after the trade. I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go Celtics Knicks also.
All right.
Western Conference Finals matchup.
That one's a lot harder, man. The West is it's really there's so much unpredictability about it. But if I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna say Denver, Minnesota.
Wow. So I thought you were so high in the cat trade for the Knicks. So you think it's a good trade for both teams?
Yeah, I do. I think Randall's a really good player. I think DiVincenzo's a really good player. Edwards, you'd like to think that he's going to take another step forward. So we'll see. I think that they have some potential. The other wild card team is Memphis, man. Very curious to see how the Grizzlies look this year.
Yeah,
very
I agree.
Curious to see.
I'm going to go for the Western Conference Finals matchup. I'm going to go OKC versus. Why are you shaking your head? I don't know. I don't know why you're shaking your head.
Just keep going. OKC against who?
San Antonio.
Really? Wow.
That's out there. It's really out there. But I am so bought in on Wemby being like the best player in the league this year.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of saying it's one of the things with the West that could just go awry. I mean, what if San Antonio is just really good all of a sudden? What if the Grizzlies are really good all of a sudden?
Yeah,
I'm still really high on like Phoenix. I think the Suns are going to be really good.
I think everyone's
if
counting them out now, but I think when you have those players, Booker and KD specifically, you can't fully count them
Yeah,
out.
no,
I
and they
wouldn't be
had
surprised.
a good off season too. Dallas, I wasn't really too high on Dallas last year, even though they made the West Finals. I mean, they added Klay Thompson. I don't know, not
I
super.
think it's just hard to repeat that run. It wasn't like they were like a top 2 or 3 team in the West all season. They just had a great playoff run. So
yeah,
I think Dallas is good, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I don't know. I thought Spurs are a fun pick. You know, I'm all about the fun.
yeah, that's it. All about fun.
All right, NBA Finals matchup and champion. So you had in the East the Celtics and the Knicks. So who do you have winning?
Oh God,
Your 2 favorite teams. So if you had to pick one,
my 2 favorite teams. I guess I'd have to say Boston. In theory, everybody's back and healthy. I just think they're so damn good. I think their wings are obviously amazing. Tatum and Brown are just incredible. Drew Holiday's awesome. Derek White's awesome. Porzingis, if they can get Porzingis back and playing healthy, then I would definitely pick Boston. But I think it's going to be if that ends up being the matchup, really tough contested series, probably going to go 6 or 7 games, and Boston just edges them out.
All right, so I'm gonna. You do your West. How about in the West? You had Minnesota versus
Denver.
Okay.
I think I'm going to take Denver to come out of the West. I know everybody is just down on them.
Is everybody down on them?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what happens once you lose in the second round, then you suck.
Oh yeah. No, they can't. They lost. Their championship window's over.
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean they still have the best player in the world. They still have. I know Jamal Murray. Everyone's concerned because he didn't have a very good playoff run. He also had a very bad Olympics for Team Canada. I don't think any of that matters. I think he's awesome. If he's your second best player, you're in really good shape. I know people are freaking out because they lost to KCP. Like, I don't care at all. Like, oh, they lost a role player. Okay.
No,
like,
I think it matters a little bit, but I don't think it takes them from like being a championship contender to not.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think they're going to be totally fine. They'll be able to fill the voids, and they've got the best player. So a lot of times that takes you. A lot of times that's good enough in the NBA.
So Minnesota versus Celtics finals. Who you have?
No, Denver versus Celtics.
Oh, I said Minnesota?
Yes. I would pick the Celtics.
All right.
Because the Celtics are the best.
The repeat,
yeah. Haven't had a repeat in a while, right? Like 6-7 years. So
yeah, and we know with the Celtics, you already predict they're going to win every year for the foreseeable future.
Yes, that's right.
All right, yeah. So for me, I'm going to go Celtics also, and then I'm going to go Celtics over the over OKC in the finals. So we're both going chalk with the Celtics repeating as NBA champions. That's fun.
Yeah.
At least I have my fun Spurs pick. So
yeah, I think the only thing that I kind of want to say about the season, I think the East is so good that like years past, the first 2 rounds of Eastern Conference, historically over the past 10 years or so, there's been like 3 good teams come out of the East. And I think the East is really good to where the point where like even the number 1 seed like is not going to have a cakewalk in the first round. There's just so many teams, man. I mean, you have Boston, New York, Philadelphia. Those are kind of everyone's favorite 3, right?
Not mine, but yeah.
I am like everyone's like out on the Milwaukee Bucks like for some reason. Yeah, and I think that's fucking crazy. I think Giannis is still arguably the best player in the world. They have Dame Lillard. They added some depth this year. I know they're getting a little bit older, and Middleton's been injured. A lot older.
Middleton and Brooke Lopez,
injured, but Yeah, but Giannis is just a fucking freak of nature. So
No, I
I'm
agree.
saying I'm not saying they're going to win the title, but like everybody thinks they're going to suck this year, and like I don't know.
No, I mean, come on, they're
You
not going to
get
suck.
if you are the 4 seed and like your first round matchups against the Bucks, like have fun with that, pal. I don't want no part of that in a playoff series. No, but seriously,
I agree.
So after that, right? So you have Boston, New York, Philadelphia. Let's say Milwaukee. You've got Indiana. You've got Orlando. You've got Cleveland. You've got Miami.
Yep.
So like,
come on, stop. Miami's not good.
No, Miami's good, but
no, you're just such a big Heat culture guy, so that's why you think that.
I'm a big playoff Jimmy guy, dude.
You're a big playoff Jimmy, Heat culture. You all about the
Tyler Hero. Oh my god.
Yeah.
First team All-NBA.
You just love Miami. I saw you love Miami. And yeah,
I love Miami.
Yeah. So, no, I was with you until the Heat, but yeah, I agree with you about the East. I think that it's really good. I do not think that. I think there's a top 2, Celtics, Knicks, and I do not think it's clear after that. I think between the Knicks, the Bucks, the Magic, and the Pacers, and a little bit less, to a lesser extent, the Cavs, I think any of those teams could be the 3 seed. I really, dude, I don't think
not Philadelphia.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we talked about them under 50 wins. We talked about Embiid not playing back to back. Embiid misses games. Paul George has had an injury history. They have a very much revamped roster. I'm not saying that Sixers aren't really good, and I'm not discounting them. I think they're going to be the 3rd best team in the East going into the playoffs. But in terms of the regular season finish, yeah, I think it takes time to develop with such a revamped roster. And I think the Magic and Pacers having rosters that have played together for multiple years now is a huge advantage in the regular season, especially the first 30, 40 games. So
yeah,
I think I really do like the Magic. I like the Pacers. I wouldn't be, and the Cavs, like I said, to a lesser extent, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of those teams end up as a 3 seed. And like I said, again, if the Sixers end up as a 4, they end up as a 5, doesn't really matter as long as they don't have to play in the play-in. Be healthy for the playoffs. That's the point.
Yep, totally. Last thing I want to say.
Yeah, go.
Please stop, NBA schedule makers. Please stop putting Philadelphia on the primetime game opening night. They always lose. Nobody wants to watch Philadelphia.
Well,
and you know what else they do? They always put them they always put them on the Christmas Day game against one of the top friggin' teams, and they always lose. And I'm sick of it. And this year, Wednesday night, they open up 7:30 Eastern against the Milwaukee Bucks. They're going to lose that game. And on Christmas Day, they're playing the friggin' Boston Celtics in Boston. I'm going to be having Christmas, enjoying my Christmas with my family, and they're going to get their asses kicked.
It's going to ruin your Christmas. They're going to lose a regular season game. It's going to ruin your Christmas.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Embiid probably won't be playing in that game. Paul George will probably be out for already 2 weeks at that time.
Just stop doing it. No one wants to watch Philadelphia.
Okay.
Except for Philadelphia fans.
Well, obviously, that's not true. Because if the NBA really thought that wasn't going to generate ratings, they wouldn't put them on these games. Obviously, you know that. I know you're messing around by saying no one wants to watch them. You don't want to watch them lose. You don't like that they're playing a great team.
People want to watch them lose, so maybe that's why they do it. Because everyone hates Philadelphia.
There you go. People
and they know they're going to lose, so they think, yeah. Philadelphia's actually the Sixers are they're favored on Wednesday night, so
okay, who cares, dude?
I'm just saying for the who's healthy, that might be an indicator.
If you want the Sixers to go into a season with the anticipation that they're going to be bad, that's what you want. Then you get not primetime games. All right. So Stop whining about it. Why don't you be a bad team? You think the Chicago Bulls are playing the Atlanta Hawks on opening night, Tuesday night on TNT?
Hey, Chicago's
Oh,
a big
God.
city, man.
Like, crying about the team being good and having stars. That's essentially what you're doing.
Oh, stop.
Schedule makers
Put the
don't
Knicks on that. Put the Knicks on
The
that
Knicks
spot. More
are.
people want to watch the Knicks.
The Knicks are playing Tuesday night against the Celtics to start the season.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God! You think I'm complaining about it? I'm very excited about it.
You should be complaining.
And if they lose and they're 0-1, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, what does this mean for the season? Oh man. All right, MVP.
MVP.
I know who you want to say. Say it.
JB, man.
No, you're not. No.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Is he actually your pick, or you're just doing this as like a troll joke?
No, I think it's JB for sure. He's gonna be the leader.
Who's your real MVP?
It's really Jalen Brunson. Why are you?
Because I know you don't think that. I know you.
Why
don't.
not?
You don't want to pick. You okay? All right, you're seriously picking Jalen Brunson.
I'm seriously.
I'm not saying that it's not possible. I think it's very, very possible. I just thought you were messing with me.
He's going to be the best player on the first or second seed in the East. It's going to be all NBA. He's probably going to lead the league in assists. It's going to be very efficient.
He's definitely not going to lead the league in assists. I promise you that.
Yeah. Why is that so far fetched?
Because he doesn't have the vision of like a Luka or like the guys that score like 11 assists, 12 assists per game. That's not JB's game. He's not going to lead. It's not far fetched. He's going to win MVP. I just thought you were joking with me.
No, that's what I was asking.
No, I think it's legitimately possible.
I think the writers are getting swept up in New York Knicks mania, and they're going to want to. I'm serious. I think they're going to love it. They're going to eat it up all year.
The writers are getting swept up in New York. Nick mania or New York mania? New York sports mania.
No, New York Knicks.
Okay.
Everyone's very happy that the Knicks are good right now, except for me.
Yeah. Except for people that don't like the Knicks, but well, come on, you're okay.
So, what about you? What's your pick?
Wemby.
MVP. Oh yeah, that's a good pick.
Well, I basically, in order to pick the Spurs to go to the conference finals, I kind of need Wemby to be amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Hey, they've got your favorite player on their team now, man. You'll be rooting for them big.
The Spurs?
Yeah, your favorite non-Nick.
My favorite non-Nick?
Yeah.
Chris Paul?
Yep.
You know what happened with Chris Paul? I stopped. My admiration for Chris Paul has died down over the years.
You're kidding. Why?
No, because he's just not good anymore. So it's hard. Like, okay, let me give you this. Joey Votto, my favorite non-Yankee baseball player, right? He recently retired because he tried to come back and he realized I'm just not good anymore. I'm not good enough. I view myself as an elite hitter, 350, 370 on base guy. I can't do it anymore, so I quit. Chris Paul is riding this out. I'm not picking the Spurs because Chris Paul's good. He's at this point, I don't even view him as a key player. He's more of like a good leader, veteran guy in the locker room.
Yeah.
But yeah, my love for Chris Paul has died down in recent years. Just because I just don't like that he's hanging on. He can still be one of
your favorite players. Okay. So you just don't like that he's hanging on.
I'm not judging him. Like he's fine. He should do what he wants. He wants to keep playing. He should play. I'm not suggesting that he should. Oh, I don't want you to do that, so don't do it. But to me, part of the admiration I had for him was the type of player he was, and he's not that type of player. So I don't currently have that same admiration for him because he's not that player. He's just hanging on. Overall, yeah. Career-wise, yeah, he's probably my favorite non-Nick of all time. Yeah.
Well, he's a loser. He's never won the championship, so he sucks.
He's a loser, and he needs commercials to keep him popular.
Yeah.
Should we do an All NBA first team real quickly?
Sure. Go ahead.
So last year was the first year where they changed the rules where it's not position based; it's just 5 best. So let's go Wemby. Let's go Luka.
He's all in.
Well, I can't pick him MVP and not all NBA first team.
All right.
So Wemby, Luka, SGA, Brunson, Giannis.
Nice.
Not in that order, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Brunson, and Hero.
Very funny.
No, that last spot, I'll say Booker.
Book. All right. Nice. I have on here team to take biggest leap, biggest surprise. While you're thinking about it, I'll say mine. I'm going Magic. Well, no, I have to go Spurs, right? Can I pick the Spurs again? No, I was thinking
you can.
Doesn't that go without saying though? I think okay, the Spurs, yes, based on my other picks, but if I want to, I'll add another one just because I've taken the Spurs now too much. Magic.
I'm going to say the Memphis Grizzlies.
You kind of prefaced that earlier in the episode. So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. The season starts on Tuesday night. The Knicks are playing the Celtics in Boston. They get to do their whole ceremony with their rings, and I know you're going to be watching.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be envisioning that being the Sixers. So, all right. That's it for our NBA season preview. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Philly Pride and Sistad soul, Andrew rapping and Wild Bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams, right behind the scenes. It seems Philly versus NY, hear the call. Who's the greatest? Who will fall with this rivalry? Loud and clear, join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew, Sistad, Brad unite. Philly and Y in the spotlight.